to tell you.
What?
This past hour of Fox and Friends could be one of the most perfect ever. We had some fantastic guests, great dialogue, but Sandra Lee has combined the two most perfect foods, chocolate and bacon. And it was beautiful.
You tasted it?
Yes, I ate two.
There are scientists in Belgium who said that couldn't be done. And we have done it in broken news right now.
You actually did it. You were painting every last piece of bacon very carefully.
I got no coaching. I had no idea what to do.
Remember when the Reese's peanut butter cup was created, the chocolate
controversial at first
went into the peanut butter? It was right up there.
Right.
Bacon.
Anyway,
See,
I'm a happy man.
I couldn't taste the chocolate because the bacon overpowered the chocolate.
That's the problem with it. It was deer bacon, right?
Yes, it was actually. It was.
Regular
I think
bacon.
She said it was.
Hey, Laura Ingraham, the founder and editor-in-chief of LifeSet and a Fox News contributor. Are there two more perfect foods than bacon and chocolate?
All I can say is, you know, it really makes my heart all warm and fuzzy to hear that last hour was the best hour.
No, we haven't started. We're just starting.
We're raising the bar, young lady. Raising the bar. You can meet it.
I don't know how to top the chocolate and bacon discussion.
I don't know if it's possible.
That's really raised the bar for me, but perhaps a fried Twinkie conversation.
You also could talk about Russia, I know.
An Oreo on a stick or something. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I can handle this.
Right. All right, let's just switch to something a little bit less serious, like Russia and collusion.
Yeah.
Let's first off, is it pretty clear, so what we've seen so far, there is no there?
Well, nothing came out of the hearing yesterday that gave us any more information about what really would be the blockbuster that the Democrats have been hanging their hat on now for months and months and months, since last summer, is this idea of collusion between the Russians and the Trump campaign to try to subvert the election and distort the electoral process in the United States. We found out no information about that yesterday.
Right.
But we did find out, and it was reconfirmed, that both Sally Yates, the acting Attorney General, and the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, both were aware of the unmasked individuals. Right. So the political opponents of Barack Obama, Mrs. Clinton, were unmasked, and the intelligence officials and Yates herself knew about that. What we don't know is how that information, how the information that was leaked to the Washington Post, that was classified, got there. Now, we still don't know that. I have a feeling we're never going to know that, because they both said that multiple people in the government knew about the unmasking. A lot of people knew. So of all the pantheon of people in the administration who knew, one of those individuals gave that information to the Washington Post. That is a felony. Yeah. That is time served in a federal penitentiary. That is the crime. And we still don't have any information on that.
Judge Napolitano, Laura, made a great point. He said even if Yates and if Clapper say that they weren't the ones that released it to the Washington Post, they might have talked about it with their colleagues. Then the colleague might have released it to the media. Of course. So you're right. I agree with you. I don't think we'll ever find out.
No, I mean this is a wild goose chase at this point. But that is to me that's the underlying question. If we're unmasking individuals, what did you get out of all this? That Mike Flynn talked to the Russian ambassador and sanctions might have been mentioned. We have former government officials, well respected, who say, well, if that happened, why is that? That's a crime? Right. That he spoke to Kirilak? I mean, there might be some other information, and I assume there is, of what Michael Flynn did vis-a-vis, his association over the years with Russia that he didn't reveal. I don't know what that is. But just speaking, and I've said this since January, just speaking to the Russian ambassador
is nothing.
And the issue of sanctions being brought up is not a federal case. That it just isn't. So I don't think we learned a lot yesterday, frankly, at this hearing. I really don't.
Well, and before the hearing, it was released, I think NBC had the news flash that apparently the former President Obama himself actually warned Trump that then soon-to-be President Trump, that, I wouldn't put too much stock. I wouldn't have Michael Flynn in a big job in your White House. But Sean Spicer yesterday afternoon made it very clear. Look, it's not like he was a fan. Flynn had been a strident critic of the Obama administration. And then he also said, if the Obama people were so worried about Flynn, why didn't they get rid of his security clearance?
Well, I think that was a great point that Sean raised. And it also begs the question, what did the president know about the unmasking? Maybe he was referencing something that they had hoped to uncover in the Justice Department's investigation. Did he know anything about it?
I just
that's
want
an interesting point. I don't know what we don't know much right now, except that the Democrats want to put Sally Yates up on Mount Rushmore, or they want to erect statues to her in the places of all the Confederate soldier statues being pulled down and down south. I mean, she's the heroine of the moment still, but I maintain that we have learned very little, except that the Democrats desperately wanted to find a connection between the Trump campaign and Russia and have come up empty. Maybe some other information is out there, but I would assume at this point, at this moment in time, that information would have been brought to the public's knowledge at this point.
Laura, it's very easy to beat up on General Flynn because he has not spoken yet. But if you ever met General Flynn and read his books and understand how competent he is and what he served for the country, he is more than able to defend himself. And I look forward to that day to see if he does have answers, because right now it's too easy to beat up on somebody that you don't see. Wait until he goes before those microphones. I think he's going to go a long way.
Well, he's not going to do it unless he gets an immunity deal, because I'm sure his lawyers, and that's what I would advise him if I was representing him. I mean, given the atmosphere in Washington and the targeting, it could be targeting of one's political opponents by using the intelligence community in this way. I mean, if I were representing him, I wouldn't walk him into these hearings and just say, oh, just subject yourself to this.
Sure.
I wouldn't.
Because ultimately, it sounds like he may have not told the truth to the FBI, and that's a big problem. Just ask Martha Stewart.
Exactly. And when you're asked questions by the FBI, whether it's in your vetting process or in the course of a normal investigation, you got to be honest. You got to be truthful.
Let's see if that is indeed true, though. Let's see if it is true.
Yeah, regarding other business dealings or other things you did that might have had some connection, you have to be forthcoming. This is a toxic atmosphere in Washington, D.C. They smell blood in the water on the left with Trump, and they'll use anything they can to try to make him look like he's incompetent for ever considering Flynn. That's why that Obama information, I think, came out yesterday. Now the question is, why didn't Donald Trump do anything about this? Obama warned him. Oh, come on.
Laura, there's another major story out there today that evidently Jared Kushner called up the Prime Minister, the President of Canada, and said, hey, you know what, convince Donald Trump not to leave NAFTA. Do you find this credible?
I've talked to a couple people close to the inner circle at the White House about this story of the last 48 hours, and two people confirmed to me that this, in fact, happened. I find that to be putting the president in a very vulnerable situation, if that occurred. First of all, unless you are the Secretary of State or you are the U.S. Trade Rep or you are the Commerce Secretary and you're charged by the president to go have these offline conversations with Canadian leaders on an issue as important as NAFTA, I don't know why you're doing it. It raises all sorts of problems. And again, I'm looking out, in this case, for the president's vulnerability. He campaigned on scrapping NAFTA and redoing a version of it, but scrapping it. I mean, how many speeches did he give about NAFTA? And now somebody is calling up Trudeau or calling up a Trudeau senior official and saying, you call him? I mean, if I were president, that would make me very uncomfortable. If you want to give advice to the president, and I've worked in the White House, you want to give advice to the president on a critical matter, it's one-on-one, or you go through the proper channels. You don't go to a foreign country and tell the foreign country to convince the president. That game of telephone tag puts the president, in my view, in a very vulnerable position, both with his base and just, I think, with overall critics of the administration. I mean, who's running the show here?
Okay.
Well, you know, that's his climate change agenda. Jared Kushner has a different climate change agenda than the president.
The same issue is coming up regarding climate change. Again, the president campaigned and has really good instincts. His political instincts are among the best I have ever seen. I don't care what anyone says. He has amazing instincts. I think he gets in trouble when he starts to doubt his instincts on issues and he starts hearing all these voices saying, oh, no, you have to do this, Mr. President, because the New York Times will be upset, or our European partners will be upset, or China will be upset. He ran as a conservative populist. The most important thing he can focus on today is how to make the lives of average Americans better, day in and day out. Is the Paris Accord going to make the lives of average Ohioans and Wisconsins and people from Pennsylvania better? Well, he has to come to that conclusion for himself. It's not what he campaigned on. And I think he should stick to his political instincts.
All right. Laura Ingraham with LifeZette. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thanks,
Great to
guys.
see you this morning.
Good to see you.
All right.
All right, let's hand it over to Jackie, who has some headlines for us.